because it feels a way, doesn't mean that that's how you need to move forward, right? And so that becomes really important because it can feel like it's hard, but if we live by the philosophy of, let's say, for instance, the law of attraction, right? Or just like reciprocal energy. If I know I'm thinking a certain way, I'm going to attract thoughts that affirm those, I'm going to attract in the physical space things that align with that thought energy. And so it's really important. So I know that there's a couple of people. No, Jeanette, you don't have to. Oh yeah, okay, so you said, should we follow the YouTube to see the screen share? No, I'm going to do the screen share here. So no worries about that. Hold on. Let me just get it back up for you. I'm trying, honestly, if I'm being real, I'm trying to stall a little bit because Alyssa just came in and there's a couple of people coming in that I know.
We can check with Alyssa to see if they're actually.
Yeah, and if we'll start in a little bit, and if they, they come in, then they'll come in on the part that they come into. It's fine. Yeah. So if you want to follow along on Zoom, you're more than welcome to. But if you have me here in person, it's fine. You'll see the screen here. So let me just go ahead and pull that stuff up. All right.
Are you wearing all green? And does your headscarf also have like money on it? I love it. Is that what I'm
Wouldn't
seeing?
that be amazing? Okay, so green's my favorite color. This is a scarf that I got in India. There's no dollar signs on here.
Oh, it looks like little like money bills or something.
I wish
I'm like, okay,
that was
it's really Abundant Friday today.
It is for sure Abundant Friday today, but no, that's not. That didn't happen. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and share my screen now, and we can go ahead and get started. So can everybody see my screen? It says Money Habits Workshop. Let me just go ahead and make that super big. All right, so everybody can see that?
Yeah.
Okay, good. All right, so I don't have a projector here, so I'm just gonna have to use my laptop as is, but I did spend time on this presentation and I hope that it, I hope that it's beneficial. So I'll introduce myself in terms of like reintroduce myself into why I'm even like a person who can talk about this. All right, so we're talking about habits. What I do is I am what's called, I do health. Okay, so I do health coaching, but I focus on total wellness, right? And so as a health coach, I also am a habit, like a behavior change specialist, right? In that way. And so I focus on the 8 dimensions of wellness, and we're talking about the 8 dimensions of wellness. There are 8, and if I had a marker that worked, because this marker does not work, and I'm like, there's a beautiful dry erase board and I can't use it because there's no dry erase marker. But if you want to take notes, these are the 8 dimensions of wellness. So the 8 dimensions of wellness, and I also walk around, so don't be freaked out if I'm walking around. 8 dimensions of wellness. So I use an acronym called PIEFOS. PIEFOSS. This is how I remember it. So this is not like in any one particular order. And none of these things are more important than the other. So the P is for physical wellness. So these are all the different dimensions of wellness. So P is for physical. I is for intellectual. E, the first E is for environmental. The second E is for emotional, and emotional wellness is also where we address mental health. Then FOSS, F is for financial wellness. O is for occupational wellness. The first S is for social, and the last S is for spiritual. So you can see there's all these different dynamics, and they all are important and key to like this overall picture of what it means to be healthy, right? Well, this would be great if I had a clicker, but I don't have a clicker. I feel like I'm closer to you all over here, so let me just bring this over here a little bit. So it's important because when we're talking about behavior change, we want to make sure that we are thinking about behaviors as a whole. And so you'll see there's some people over there, some familiar folks that you know that that are with us from afar. So we're all here. But we want to be thinking about them all in aggregate, right? So not just like when we think about wellness in general, what are we thinking of? It's a question for anybody who wants to unmute or whoever wants to take a stab at it. Like, what are we thinking of wellness? Are we thinking about
Mental.
Yeah.
My cup being full kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Being in a place where like I can choose to do things out of want and need and not out of like anxiety or
Yeah.
restriction.
Yeah. Good. Anybody who's on with us in Zoom want to chime in? What do you think about when you think about wellness?
I feel like the goal is to be at peace, wellness to be at peace.
I like that. The goal is to be a peace, right? So anybody else? Talisha, did you have anything?
Yeah, I feel like for me, wellness is kind of like not only like one thing, but just feeling like aligned in kind of like everything that I'm doing and feeling like, I guess, happy or just like content.
Good. So we want all of those feelings. Hi. Yay. Come have a seat. We're one big family. So you haven't missed anything. We're just starting the conversation. And I was just talking about wellness, right? So one of the things that a lot of times we don't always think about, though we're talking about wellness, is money. Money we think about is like something else, but it very much so impacts our health and well-being. And it's definitely a part of wellness. We're talking about like holistic. Hey, I haven't seen you. And every time I see you, I'm like, I haven't seen you forever.
I know.
So we want to be thinking about that. So today we're going to be focusing on money habits, and in particular going over 6 habits that will be, we want to think about it. I don't necessarily like using like good and bad, like using those. I mean, I did use it for today just to illustrate it, but I really want to think about taking you further away from your goals or taking you closer to your goals, right? Like that's really what it is. If it's taking you further away from it, then it's a habit that is bad for you, right? And if it's taking you closer to your goals, then it's a habit that's good for you. So we're going to go over that. But the first thing that we're going to do, what'd I do? Wrong key. First thing we're going to do is talk about wealth, right? So just kind of going over some of these definitions. So what is wealth? What is what? You can look at the definition, but what does it mean to you, right? Because we can have that written in front of us, but are there other things that are maybe not on our definition? This is like dictionary definition, right? That we think about when we think about what wealth is. What are some of those things? And do we want it?
I think about wealth and like having all the monies in the world. All the monies in the world, and like you don't even think about money being an object. It's just like you can do whatever you want, right?
Mhm.
And that you just get to live.
Word.
You have all the money.
Yeah. So getting to live. And by the way, so y'all just came in, but I was saying so there's a nice dry erase board there, but the dry erase marker doesn't work. So I can't use it. Yeah, it's dead. So otherwise I would be writing everything because I know folks are visual. But I got a PowerPoint. All right. So having all the monies in the world, I think of like Scrooge McDuck. That's just like, swimming in the money, like just right, like that. So that's like a visual that comes into mind. Anybody else have a visual?
Property.
Yeah, property could be, depending upon what kind of property you own.
Yeah.
Right, could be, but like having assets, right? That's like basically what you're getting at, having assets and things like that. So definition: an abundance of valuable possessions or money, the state of being rich, material prosperity. These are, like I said, just the definitions. Plentiful supplies of a particular resource. And then there was a definition of money that included wealth that I wanted to put in here because to me, this was interesting, is money one of the third definition of money was the assets, property, and resources owned by someone or something, wealth. But some of the things that y'all brought up with wealth included feelings, right? So feelings of being able to do whatever you wanted to, and you ain't got to worry about if you have the money to do it. You talked about having your cup spill it over. I have enough for myself and for others, right? And so you think about like the nature of your jobs, you know, that you have, or the things that you want to do, or the kind of like what you have in your heart to give. You have to be able to first have your cup full before you can properly give to somebody else. Otherwise, you're always running at a deficit. So, you know, the real question is, do we want wealth? Feels like it has less to do with, do we want copious amounts of money, and more, do we want to have the amount of money that we need to get our needs met so that we can then have abundance to do what we need to do? That could be helping other people. That can be, you know, doing something extra for a loved one or for yourself, or, you know, whatever it means to you, depending upon what your values are. Does that make sense? All right. Ooh, I keep doing that. All right. So then rich. Now, rich and wealth, rich and wealthy, right? They sound the same. They sound the same, but they're different connotations, right? So what is rich? The definition here, having a great deal of money or assets, wealthy, plentiful, abundant. To me, this sounds a lot like wealthy when you look at the definition for face value. But when I think rich, right, like what kind of feelings come up with it? Just think about like a person who's rich, right? Think of the like close your eyes and picture a rich person, right? Because now we're going to get into the stereotypes, right? And we're going to get into a little bit of like the mentality of what we think about when we think about money. This is, I got an agenda, right? So what comes to mind? What does this person look like? What are they doing? You know, are they driving a car? Like what is it? I just need like maybe two people to give me, you know, what the vision of the person that comes to their mind. And it's all right. It's all right, right? We got to talk about it. We got to be honest in order to really dig into how we think about money and being rich. Because some of us are like, oh, anyway, Kate, what
I don't know.
are you thinking?
I don't know, for some reason, the first person that came to mind was the Kardashians.
Ah,
I don't know.
they are rich.
Yeah,
And they
they're
look
rich.
good, you can see looking at them.
They look
Yeah.
like money, don't they? Just
Yes.
okay. All right.
I
So
thought of Richie Rich from the movie.
okay. Richie Rich
Like,
from the
so
movie in the
extra
90s.
movie.
Yeah, just like, you know, you got doormen and
Mhm.
you know, you got, yeah, okay, people walking a dog and doing stuff, right? So you've got help, right? Let's put it like that, right? We're not gonna, you know, bash anybody for like being able to afford those things, but they've got help. They don't necessarily need to do some of those things when we talk about like our hierarchy of needs. They've got other people maybe who take care of their needs getting met, right? Okay, so that's an idea, right? That can maybe, you know, bring up some emotions for you, maybe negative, maybe positive, right? What's another stereotype? Or just what you think of? You think who's the rich person?
I feel like there's like a difference, because I feel like in my head when I like rich, I was like, there's rich, and then there's like rich.
Like mega rich.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
rich is like the Kardashians, like they have it, you know.
Yeah. Well, what about somebody who's just like good old regular rich?
If it's like regular rich, I feel like it could be someone who can, you know, take at least 2 to 3 trips a year to like.
I do that.
See, I think it's total opposite. To
Yeah.
be rich,
Right?
it's like, I don't know, because then I was gonna say Jeff Bezos, but that's wealth. That's like.
Yeah. He's like top couple of
That's like
people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what is rich? Yeah, like how do you think of all those differently?
Exactly. That's good, Courtney. So there's levels to this, right? There's levels. There's people, like Kay said, a couple of trips a year. I'm like, I do that. Now do the people, somebody else, and this is the thing about perspective, somebody else can look at you and be like, oh, you must be rich, right? Like you must be rich. And then that person can be like, nah, they're not feeling it because they don't feel wealthy. Right? Because there's a difference. So they can have the money, but if they don't feel wealthy, they don't feel the freedom. And we talked about that right before. Freedom. We were talking about freedom numbers and all that. So freedom comes with wealth. That's why it feels different. Freedom comes with wealth, right?
I
Yeah.
feel like rich feels a little more like external, like I can see it more, and also like I feel like wealth may not be as visibly flashy, but wealth is also like, I feel like a generational thing too, of like, it's gonna pass down through your family line, like if you do that.
It could be, yeah, because it also comes down, all of this comes down to generational mentality around money, right? Like, what were you taught as a young person growing up around money? Were some of these messages, we're not gonna get too deep into it because the last time that we had this conversation, we talked about it. So we're not gonna get too deep into it, but we could brush the surface because I know a lot of y'all weren't here for it. So what are the messages that have been passed down from generation to generation telling you about what you deserve, right? And how much of it you deserve, and if you should feel good about it or not, right? Because we can be in this, you don't know who has money, who doesn't have money, unless we're going around talking about it. We have no idea, right? It's all perception. And like I said, people sometimes who do have, let's say, more money than the person next to them may not feel rich, although the government may say you're rich, right? And they may tax you higher, or other people may look at you and be like, oh, you got it. So now everybody's asking you for money, right? So there are dynamics of that, but that person may be like, but I work really hard and, I'm barely able to like have any more than what I spend. And the money comes in, the money goes out, right? We don't know the situation. So it's up for you to define for yourself what level you want to be at. What do you want to feel, right? Because that's really, we're moved by feelings. We are an emotional species. We're social and we're emotional, right? We move based off of how we feel. And hopefully we're also moving based off of logic, right? And rationality, but we are really moved, we are persuaded to make big moves based off of our pain, our fears, right? And those sorts of things. So, all right, so we can all say, now we have definitions for rich and wealthy. They're very similar, but one of them comes with this sense of financial freedom, which just comes with a sense of like social freedom. Like I can do what I need to do and I don't have to stress. I don't have to feel anxious about it, right? So
Not that one.
Geez, I don't know why. Like normally I press the space bar and it's probably the way I downloaded it anyway. Okay, so now we went over those indefinite. One more definition that's really important. So habits, right? This is the definition that was given by dictionary.com, but I have a better definition for you, but we can look at this. A settled or regular tendency or practice, especially one that's hard to give up. The addendum to that I'm going to offer you is that a habit is something that was once routine that you no longer have to think of because it's just become a part of your everyday basically canon, right? It's what you do. You wake up, you brush your teeth because your breath feels funky and you're like, I need to brush my teeth. So you do that, right? That wasn't always something that people did, but it's become a cultural habit, right? And so now we all kind of like, okay, yeah, we're gonna do that, right? Or what are some other things that you just kind of like do automatically, habitually?
Start the tea.
You said what?
Start the tea kettle in the morning.
Start the tea kettle.
So in the morning, brush teeth.
To get
tea
some
kettle.
tea. Yes, yeah. So you wake up, the tea kettle, or for some people who are coffee drinkers, coffee, right? You're like, yeah, this is just what I'm doing. And you do these things and you don't even think about them, right? And they become a part of like your, neural infrastructure. Is just like what happens is that has already been laid out. So now when you want to break it because you have those neural connections, it's very hard to break it. It's very hard to break it. Now, what does this have to do with what we're talking about? Because we have financial habits right? That are going to be really difficult to break. But here's the thing about habits is that they can all be changed. It takes effort. It takes a lot of effort. It takes more effort than a lot of people are willing to. I even go to say that most people are willing to do. Most people are not willing to go through the effort, because the effort is, and we're talking about pain centers, the effort that it takes is painful. It's like, I don't want to do that. Right? Like every fiber of your being is like, nah, I want to go to the restaurant today. I'm hungry. I need to go to McDonald's to get something to eat. I need to, right? I used to have this habit, or it was a routine that became a habit when I worked at this gym in Connecticut, not the one that I currently work at, but another one. And I used to work there, and there was a Starbucks right across the street. And every day, like in my lunch break, I'd be so tired. I start work at 6. And it's funny because now I even start my day at like 5 a.m. now, right? But at this time I was waking up at like 4:30 a.m. I was going to work. I had my first client at like 6 on the dot, and then I had a string of clients after that. And on my lunch break, I used to be like, I'm going across the street and I'm going to Starbucks because I'm tired. And because I'm tired, I'm going to get a coffee. Now, I'm not a coffee drinker, right? I'm not like huge on caffeine. I'm actually kind of caffeine sensitive, but I was like, but I'm waking up. So I go over there, I will go buy my coffee. And then I'd be like, oh, and that brownie looks good. I'll get the brownie too. So then I got the brownie and the coffee, and I'm like, oh, but I need some protein. So then I get the protein bites. And so then it became a thing where it's like every day I begin those 3 things, and it was like $20 every single time, right? So when I added it up, I was like, holy shit, I'm spending over $100 every week on Starbucks. Like, this is counterproductive, like, you know what I'm saying? And so those kind of things, it's like oftentimes one habit may branch off and basically impact a whole other string of behaviors, right? They're called keystone habits. So we have these big habits, and if we work on breaking them, other things fall in place. And it works the other way around too. Keystone habits, when you work on developing them, other things fall in place. Does that make sense? Okay.
I've never heard of that
Keystone, yeah, write it down. Keystone, Keystone. Keystone habits. They're the big things like, let's think of an example, or can you think of an example of one, something like if you did this one thing, other things would happen?
If I stop breathing?
No, no, that's a bad example. Okay, so like for instance, here's one. So currently I'm developing the habit of not eating anything that contains bioengineered ingredients, right? So that's the habit that I'm currently working on. This is a true story. I'm not lying. I'm not making this up. This is true story. So what I do is, because I know that was legislation that mandated a report, that mandated that there be food labeling that includes if a food product was made with bioengineered ingredients, because I know that. And I also know that I can look for a label that says BE. I know that I can look for a QR code, and QR code, I got to scan it. It's going to tell me this got bioengineered ingredients, or I can look at it and it'll say bioengineered. And because I know that, and I also know that there are genetically modified seeds that go into these things, I look at the nutrition label, but it's not where the ingredients are. It's underneath that. So I look at it and I'm like, okay, that has bioengineered ingredient. I'm not going to eat it. So what does that do? Now, because I've developed that habit, now the junk food is out of the question. The carbonated beverages, right? Out of the question. A lot of the starchy foods, like there's a lot of things that because of this one thing, this one habit, now I'm not doing these other things, right? And there's other examples of that. Let's say you start working on your sleep habits, for example, right? Right, you work on your sleep habits, you get more sleep, your hormones become regulated. Now you're not, having cravings, you're not having mood swings, you're not, your metabolism is working better for you. You're not having like headaches during the day because you changed this one thing, so other things start to change. That's keystone habit. Right. So we think about what are those things for your financial wellness, since today we're talking about money. Right? Since they were talking about money. So these are, oh, geez, yeah, that's a habit, right? Okay, so we're gonna do a little habit activity. So does everybody have a paper, something to write with? So the first thing, and you're gonna end up writing down 20 things. So, do your best, all right? So first thing is you wanna write down 5 money habits that you currently have. That, remember we said we're gonna try not to say like bad and good, right? So things that encourage wealth. We want wealth over rich, right? You can feel wealthy without having a bunch of money. Does that make sense? So, right, what are those 5 things for you? Just take a little bit, and you can continue to think about these things like as time goes. Even if you don't finish it today, you can take it home with you and continue to think about this. This is a brain activity, right? So 5 money habits that you currently have that encourage wealth. This could be,
that do.
Yeah, let's start off positive. You got to start off positive, that do encourage. Well, what are you doing right? Basically, what are you doing right? This could be, you're taking 10% of your paycheck and you're putting it into a Roth IRA, right? That's an example of one. So find 5 things that you're currently doing right and write those things down. All right, so take some time, figure that out. Let's say 3 to 5 things, because maybe 5 things may be a lot, maybe put all the numbers there, later on you wanna address it. But for now, we're gonna aim for 5, but if you get 3, that's fine. Second one, you're gonna do the opposite, right? Let's say 3 to 5 money habits that you have that discourage wealth. And this could be things like my Starbucks example, I go and I spend $20 on Starbucks every day that I, get on my lunch break because I'm tired, which stemmed from I'm not sleeping well. That's discouraging me from being wealthy, right? So they're not always obvious, right? I could say my keystone habit would have been sleep better, go to sleep earlier. And then maybe I wouldn't be tired at work. And then maybe I wouldn't feel like I need a coffee. And then maybe I wouldn't be spending $100 a week on Starbucks, right? To fix the problem. All right, so you got 3 to 5 things there. And now we want to think about things that you've done in the past that you're no longer doing, right? So 5 money habits, again, let's say 3 to 5 things that you used to do that you don't do anymore because you done learned not to do it, right? You have learned, you've had some, some hard lessons when it comes to money, and now you do that. So I'll share with you one. When I was younger, I had like horrible mentality around money, and so one of the things, I had student loans, and I was just like, I'm not paying them student loans. I moved out of the country. I was like, I'm not paying these student loans, and all my student loans went into default, right? It's a money habit that I used to do that. Like, I'm not paying these bills. I have to buy food. I need to eat. If it's between food and bills, I'm eating, right? And so those were like, these are, maybe, I don't know if this is drastic for y'all, but that was my thing. But I learned from it, and now I'm like, all right, I'll pay the bills because I'm a responsible human being, and subscribing to our Western lifestyle here. And I'm gonna do this because otherwise what happens? You end up in trouble legally, right? So anyway, and then the final thing that you're gonna do is you're gonna write down 5 money habits that you currently would like to develop. So these could be things that you've seen other people do well, that you're like, oh, I really wish that I could do that. This might be, I want to learn how to invest, or, you had mentioned, Courtney, real estate, these kind of things, right? I want to learn how to, I want to start a business, or, I want to just like learn how to be happy, right? Like, whatever it is that you feel like is, I want to give more, right? We all know giving, you give more, you get more, like it's just the the law of nature is like that, right? You give some things and all of a sudden it's like abundance happens, right? So so think about what those things are and just continue to, while we have this discussion, like just continue to jot stuff down because you may not have all the answers right now, but the important part is that you're thinking about it and then maybe we can share in a little bit. All right. Everybody got the questions down. I can move forward. We're good. Can move on.
Yeah, we're good.
Okay. All right. All right, so a couple of quotes here. So this was, it is not the man who has little, but he who desires more that is poor. Right, just a couple of quotes here. The world has enough for everyone's needs, but not for everyone's greed. All right, that's Gandhi said that. The other one was from Seneca. And then, if not to make the world better, what is money for? Right? If not to make the world better, what is money for? That's Elizabeth Taylor. All right, so think about those because these are different ways of thinking about I think money and wealth, right? Why do we have it? Why does everybody want it? Right? You know, do you want it so that you can help other people? Do you want it so that you can feel secure because you didn't feel secure before? Do you never want to be in a bad situation? You want to be able to go on more trips and see the world and learn more, right? Everybody has a different reason. Maybe you want to make sure that you're providing for your child. If you've got children and you want them to have a life that you never had, right? There's all these different reasons why we want money. So, so think about that. All right, so now we've got, this is a poor, wealthy, right? So behind these words, you've got a homeless person, you know, and we would label that person as you're poor, right? Just off the surface, just off the bat, you're poor. And there's this woman who you can't really see her behind this. Let me see if I can move this. You just get a glimpse of her eyes, right? But I mean, like the nice makeup, the nice outfit, you know, the luxurious, whatever that is, crystal mirror, you know, just posing, looking sharp. And we will look at somebody like that and be like, well, you're wealthy, right? We're not thinking about what they're feeling, what their thoughts are, right? We're just labeling it because of the access to resources or the access to you know, money, right? But we know now there's more to it than that, right? So hopefully you all came to that conclusion from hello. Okay. All right, so now we can get into it. Money habits, y'all ready for it? All right, let me just do a time check so I can make sure that I'm respecting everyone's time. Okay. So we are right on time. All right, so get your pens and your papers ready so we can get into it. So 5 bad money habits. I know I said I wasn't gonna use it, but you know what didn't fit on this page? 6 bad money habits. It was, if it said 6 habits that moves you further away from you, like that just doesn't give the same the same ring, right, to it. So the first one is FOMO. Y'all know what FOMO is? Who knows what it is? What is it? What does it stand for? Yeah, fear of missing out. Fear of missing out. This is when they do the GameStop, when they do the GameStop like short and everybody's like, yo, we're gonna make a whole bunch of, and they did. Do y'all know that story? All right, some of y'all. Okay, so basically, a bunch of people on Reddit, right? There's a thread there called Wall Street Bets. And they were all on this thread. And this was like a couple of years ago. And they were like, we're gonna like dump. I mean, basically, we're all gonna get GameStop stock, right? We're gonna purchase it. And basically they just kind of flipped it, right? So they went ahead and they bought it. But the thing is that everybody else was betting against it. So because of the way that they betted, they actually made money. They made a whole bunch of money. They shorted the stock. So I'm not going to get too much into that, but everybody who found out about it after was like, oh, and now I want to get on GameStop. But the idea is that for the long term, anytime you have something in the stock market, you want it over time, like let's say over a period of 20, 30 years, You want it to be able to be a strong company, right? But the fundamentals of this company was not really strong, right? So in the end, people who didn't get out of it soon enough lost all their money, right? So the fear of missing out, I want to be a part of this thing because it's supposed to be a good opportunity. So everybody feels like they're missing out on something when they don't go and hop to it, right? And it may not be the best choice for everybody to be a part of something. So if you see here, I've got 3 different examples of this. So one will say this is like candlesticks for the stock market, right? So you see there's a downtrend. This is basically what our economy looks like right now. It's just like plummeting down, right? So we have this, but if you're in it for a short-term investment and you don't really understand the stock market, you're going to lose all of your money. You're going to get discouraged and you're going to get out of it having less money than you did going into it, right? So that's a bad play for you, right? So we don't want that. The second one in the second box, these are all cryptocurrencies, right? So we've got like Litecoin, Bitcoin, Ethereum. And, folks are like doing all of these, they call them meme coins, right? I want to get into this and crypto bullies and let's like go ahead and invest into this, but without understanding what they're getting into. So if you go into something and you don't have a full understanding of it, and you're investing, you could very much well lose a bunch of your money. And again, not knowing why you're in something, thinking like, nah, my cousin just made a couple $1,000s on that, bless you, just made a couple $1,000s on that. I want to get in. You're being fearful that you're going to miss out on something if you're not like with it and doing that. So you end up losing money. And the other thing is on real estate. So real estate can be a good investment or it can be a bad investment, depending upon what it is that you're doing. You'll hear real estate investors talk a lot about how, or some, right, who are being honest, how single family homes are not a real estate investment, right? So it's a liability because you have a mortgage, you have to pay it. You're not making any rental income off of it, right? It'll depreciate over time unless you're in an area of gentrification. So there's you're going to be in an area of gentrification because it can't be gentrified when you get in there. That's a surefire, like that's a bad bet. So these are all ways you can think about like, oh man, I really want to get into that. And you don't know what's going on and you jump into it and you fail and then you're mad. So that's a bad money habit that people have. Don't know if you have it, but some people have it. So don't fall into it, especially with all of the schemes that go around and people are like, oh, let me get you into this. Everybody's talking about how do you make a quick dollar? That was going around rampant in the beginning of the pandemic. People was like, listen, I got a way that you can make $5,000 this month extra, and do y'all know what I'm talking about? Like, y'all know what I'm talking about? Like, there were a bunch of scams and schemes going around, right? And people want to hop in on it, like, all right, yeah, I'm about it. And then they lose out. So the first bad money habit is FOMO. Unless you thoroughly understand if you're going to take a leap into investments, unless you thoroughly understand what you're investing in, right? Do your research. And then you can make an educated decision, but don't make uneducated decisions, especially about your money. Make sense? Okay. Any questions? Okay. All right. Second bad money habit, too much debt. I feel like this is one that most of us can relate to. Just having entirely too much debt, especially if you went to college, right? Like, how do we get out of this? So there are 3 kinds of debt that I want us to be aware of. The first one is credit card debt. This is revolving debt. So again, there can be good debt and there can be bad debt. Good debt is, what do you think that is? What do you think I mean when I say, like, what in the world scenario could it mean to have a good debt?
Wouldn't it be like if you went to college and then you actually pay it, like keep paying it? No, then I don't.
Nah.
Like buying a house.
In what way?
Well, I mean, you're getting equity from it eventually. Like if you're doing the multifamily house, Brandy, let's talk about that.
Yeah, okay, there we go. Thank you. Why would a multifamily house maybe be good debt to get into?
Because you're putting an upfront cost, but you are receiving passive income through renters as well.
There we go. There we go. You want debt that's gonna make you money. So rule of thumb, right? Don't get debt that's not gonna make you money. Your student loan debt, is it gonna make you money? For most people, it doesn't. The people that it does make money for are like doctors, like surgeons, anesthesiologists, like people where at the end of that, they get to go into a career that has a very lucrative salary where they can pay off that debt back quickly and then make some. But if you are paying off your debt, not to get grim on you, but like my mother died in her 70s with student loan debt and she never graduated college, right? So it's like, it's not helpful for most people. For some people, yes, but for most people, no. There's that. Then I don't know, that may stir up feelings, but but there's that. So if you cannot say that the debt that I took on is going to in turn make me money, we can call it bad debt. Revolving credit cards, if they're not business cards and they're personal cards and you're using them for things that are not going to be investments to make you more money, it's taking out of your pot, right? Let's see an example of how credit card debt could be good debt. Anybody have an example of that?
What I thought of was, getting a credit card to build credit. And that's the only good that would come from that, but it doesn't make you money.
It does, yeah, it doesn't, but it could be something to leverage. So you want, when it comes to credit cards, you want to be able to leverage. So let's say I don't know, have impeccable credit score and I say, you know what, I want to, let's go back to the multifamily. But let's say I want to put this multifamily on my credit card. Now I'm not going to be mad at that credit card debt because I can then take the rental income from there, pay off my credit card debt, and maybe I didn't even have to incur a mortgage. Right? So you can think about that. It's very different than, or like, for instance, here's another one that's really practical. I think that every person should establish an LLC for themselves, right? Like find a business to have, and that way you can use your credit card as leverage, and then you can have tax write-offs. So let's say, like for instance, I have to, in my business, I got to be on social media a bunch, right? And guess what? I need, in order to do that, clothes. So guess what gets written off in my taxes? My clothes, right? Right? I go,
Your phone.
my phone, right? I use my phone to do half of the stuff, then that can get written off, right? Right, anything. And then if you pay off those kind of things, right? Let's say with your business card, if you have one, if you want to think about, and that could be homework for you, right? Like everybody just think of like, what's a business that you can have? If you're an artist, now you got an art business. If you like to do makeup, now you got a makeup business. You just need something that you can do from time to time. So then you can use it as a tax, basically to get more tax breaks, and you have to do it legally, right? So it can't be something you're just making up, because we're not trying to scheme anybody. You actually need to have a service or something that you do, but you would be a sole proprietor in that, and then you'd be able to write off those expenses. You pay for it with the credit card, you pay off it with cash. Now you're building your credit and you're leveraging your credit card, your revolving debt, and you're getting a tax incentive and tax break for it. Make sense?
So
All
what
right.
So what you're saying is,
Yeah.
investing in an LLC is good debt, because in Massachusetts it costs $500.
Yeah, exactly. So this would be good debt because it would set you up to be able, it will put you in a position, with the right CPA to guide you, right? Will put you in the position to be able to save more in taxes. And a lot of what we pay a lot of our expenses are in taxes. That's like one of the highest expenses that we have. It comes out of our check, so we don't necessarily see it. It's like automated. But I mean, but think about it. You got like $400 or $500 coming out of each check in taxes, and then you got to pay taxes on top of it. It's just a lot of money. So you want to try to get that down. And this is one of the like hacks that you could use in order to get your tax, what you owe to the IRS down.
So say I start like I get my LLC in like, Rhode Island or something, but I pay taxes in Massachusetts.
Mhm.
Is that?
So your business, like my business is established in New York, right? And I have a foreign entity status in Connecticut. I live in Connecticut. I work in Massachusetts, right? So I pay my taxes to New York, or my business taxes to New York. If I made any money in Connecticut, I'll pay those taxes in Connecticut. I'll pay my personal taxes also, but because it's an LLC, the way that I currently have it established, it's all passed through. So I pay it together. But as you start to grow, right, you'll separate it and you want to do it quarterly. So that's the thing. And again, like, I'm not a financial advisor, so I can't give you, like, I can't tell you exactly what to do. You're going to have to talk to your CPA, or your accountant about it. But yeah, people do it all the time. People establish their LLCs in Delaware because there's no tax. You know what I'm saying? Like, or they'll establish them in Florida where there's no sales tax, and they'll live where they live, and it'll be fine, right? So, again, definitely talk to your CPA, because you're going to want to get the laws for your state so that you're not saying like, Brandy told you this and I got audited and it came out this and this, and now I owe this much. Like, no, talk to the person who knows the laws, and and make sure that you do it legitimately, but it's something for you to look in, because it's a real legitimate hack, right? All right. And so that's revolving credit. And then I have here, this is like getting loans and things like that, unless, like I said, they result in you getting something that's going to make you money at the end. And the same with the mortgages. That's a house of money, just because that's what it is. It can either be a lucrative asset or it can be, a damaging liability, right? So one or the other. All right. Third money habit, tax refunds, right? So with this, right, we're talking about inflation. So the reason why tax refunds are on here is because we have experienced a very rapid increase of inflation. I'm not going to get all into why. There's specific reasons why, but we're at a very high rate of inflation right now. And so in the past, it was in our best interest, some of us, to be like, oh, tax refunds. Like, who gets excited when they're like, I'm gonna get tax refund next season, right? It's tax season, right? And we're not excited because we gotta pay taxes. We're like, oh, we're gonna get that tax refund. Give me that, couple $1,000s or whatever it's gonna be, and put that in my pocket, right? But with inflation, the amount that you see, how it's reflected, it might be a little bit different. You might actually be in a position where it would have been more advantageous for you to have paid those taxes up front than to have waited till after inflation and you have to pay more, right? And so we want to think about it. We're in tax season now, so we're not really going to think about it, but moving into like this fiscal year and think about next tax season, we want to be smart about how we treat this year so that next year we can set ourselves up for the best possible scenario. All right, so you want to be mindful of it. Just keep your eye out for inflation. And, if you have the resources to do it and you want to try to pay off some of your taxes beforehand, you can do that. You have the option to do that when you sign your tax documents, you fill them out, you can put a little extra on there. You don't have to though, because the other side of that is the ability for people to do this depends on how much money that they're making. So make the decision that's smart for you, depending upon, what you're doing, what income sources you have happening. All right. Bad money habit 4. So many of us are guilty of this. Eating. Look at you, Kay. You're like, yeah. How much are those drinks now? They're like $10 a pop.
Even a Sprite.
Even a Sprite. When I go out and I'm like, oh, I want a drink, and and I gotta have at least 2. And then sometimes you're like, I'm buying around, and then you look at your bill and you're like, why is my bill $200-300? Sometimes though. No, Leslie, no.
$200? That's excessive. How many friends you got, Brandy?
Not many.
There's a drink.
It's the drinks add up.
Good thing I can't drink.
Oh, gosh.
Oh, no.
So eating out, right? And this comes like to when you budget, right? If you budget and when you budget, give yourself a budget, like this is the max amount that I'm going to spend when I'm eating out, because it can be real easy to be like, not being aware of all that, Gotta go. All right, bye. Thank you for coming. So yeah, so you want to make sure that you're aware of that, how much you're eating out, what your expenses are with that. Because that can add up. And sometimes you'll find yourself, saving $1,000 or a couple of $100 a month from just eliminating this one thing.
So that was one of my keystone was, you mentioned the lunch thing. And I was like, well, if you meal prep at least like 3 meals, you're eliminating going out to
Yes.
lunch entirely. Okay. That's an
Exactly.
example.
That's a great example. That's a great example. Yep. That's it. So you do that, and now all of a sudden you don't find yourself hungry. You don't go out to eat, or for lunchtime, and no pressure. And no pressure to folks, right, who are like, hey, you want to go out to eat? Like every time, every hangout at work doesn't have to involve food, right? Like it don't have to be like, oh, let's hang out. Okay, let's go get something to eat. It can be, let's all bring our lunches, or, or whatever, or it could just not even be about food, right? But meal prepping for sure is a good keystone habit to develop that will help with that.
Yes, that was on my list.
Subscriptions, bad money habit number 5, subscriptions. So these little Netflix and Planet Fitness and Hulu and all these other things, or whatever else you subscribe to that that you're like, how did this add up like this? And every little thing adds up. So maybe you've got like 5 subscriptions at home that are each $10, so that's $50 a month, right? But that's not even it. Now everything's gone up because of inflation and because everything. So let's say now it's doubled. So now that's an extra, $100 or a couple $100. You're like, where did this come from? And it's because you got all of these subscriptions.
You still have so many subscriptions, oh my goodness.
Yeah,
A lot.
that's what happens. So you got to look at, so you want to take a inventory of what do you have. And then what I would say is, if you use it and you enjoy it, don't deny yourself the luxury, right? So I have, if people think about this different way, they're like, I'm gonna just get rid of everything, and it's gonna be bare bones, and I'm gonna say, and people do that. They make a lot of money. I mean, they save a lot of money like that. They end up, acquiring a lot more accumulation of money because they deprive themselves of some things that they really love. But I feel like this. Be happy. So if something gives you joy and you're using it, use it. But if something doesn't give you joy or you're not using it, get rid of it, and get rid of it soon, right? So this goes with television subscriptions and everything, but also go with gyms, right? Most people who have gym memberships don't use them. Right? So if you have a gym membership and you're not using it, you're just paying for it with the hopes that like one day maybe I'll use it because it keeps coming out of my bank account, it's not going to happen 9 times out of 10. 9 times out of 10, you'd be better. In my opinion, you'd be better suited by hiring an accountability buddy, a coach, a trainer that's going to be like, get your ass here and work out. Like, you'd be better off by having somebody else who's going to hold you accountable if you know that you got a gym membership that you're never using, right? And I'm saying this is after years of working in the gym and everything, and understanding habits and all that stuff. And I'm just letting you know, like, save yourself some money if you're not going to use it. I do think that people should be doing something active, but don't waste your money on a membership you're not going to use. Or you could work for the gym and you get free gym membership. You know, that's another little hack. All right, and the final one that we're gonna talk about is junk food. Junk food, why is this a bad money habit? Because it's so easy to get your hands on it. It's so easy to get your hands on some junk food. Domino's texts me. Okay, Domino's Pizza sends me promotional text messages that are like $5.99, or they'll be like, girl, you know it's pizza night. Let's go. You know you want some pizza. And I'm like, oh, I do want some pizza. You know what I'm saying? It's like, no cap, you told no lies. I do want some of that. But it's, you know, honestly, you look at it and I'm like, if I had to order it, that's easily like $30. And for me to sit there, by the time they add on the delivery fee, by the time they add on and that's not even really with the tip, but it's like some other fee that I'm just like, why is this there? You know, and then I gotta wait for it. And then I eat it and I'm like, that wasn't even as good as I wanted it to be. But they
Low-key,
said,
like low-key these days, it almost is cheaper to eat out because people don't have the skill to prepare their food, to process their food so it stays in the fridge longer, to use canned goods and non-perishables. So like learning those skills first and like knowing how to do that.
Yeah.
It's as like an 18-year-old, of course, she's just gonna go out to eat all the time. She don't fuck to eat.
it's easier.
Yeah.
When I was in college, I ate ramen noodles every day. Every day. I was like, yo, I can't afford nothing else but ramen noodles, you know? And I mean, that has its own health consequences, but you know what I mean? Yeah, so it's, you have to make the right decision for you. But the other thing is that there are, like meal delivery services. Like for instance, I started using the Blue Apron, and you still cook your food, but it gives you like the recipe. You don't have to, it takes the think work out of like, what am I gonna do? And then there's also an element of meal prepping there. So it's like, oh, there's some leftovers, it's fresh. So that's Blue Apron. Hello Fresh is like that. Blue carrot, purple carrot. There's like, you know, there's a couple of those things. All right, so those are all of the habits that we're talking about. So the next step is making sure that there's an actionable next step for you, right? What is the plan? So can everybody look at their list of the 5 things? And I just want you to share out. Salud. Bless you. So I just want you to share out the number 1 thing that you said you want to establish for yourself. Just one thing. What would that be? Really quickly.
I've been wanting to open a Roth IRA, not kidding, for almost 9 years now, and I just haven't done it.
Nice.
And I've had.
So this is your year.
It is.
This is your year. So after this, you know who you're gonna, who you're gonna meet up with.
Should I just go to a bank? Should I do it online?
There's different ways that you can open up a Roth IRA. You can do it through your employer. You could do it through. Oh yeah, I got one set up.
Oh, cool.
You can also do it through a bank, or you can do it through an investment bank, right? There's different ways, but you know, your employer, and in this case, right, has like a match with it. It's not, you know, a big match, or it's not even a significant match, but it is something. I would have that conversation and be like, hey, you know, but yeah, but you can go to any of those institutions, even like, you know, check with credit union. Do y'all have this? Like, what options do you have? And make the choice that makes the most sense for you.
Yeah.
I have multiple investment accounts and multiple like IRA accounts too. So it's like with different people in different institutions in different places, and one of them is my employer. All right, so Roth IRA. What are some other things?
I put the same thing, just
Same
same
thing?
thing. Start young. Like,
There we go. It's the smartest thing. It's the smartest thing, because then you get some compound, you get the magic of compounding, right? And that's something that you got to start when you're young. So
And
you're
then
very smart to do that now.
So, and then my first one is learning how to invest.
Nice.
So, yeah.
Good. Good. All right. Cool.
Starting young.
Yeah. Awesome. All right. Anybody else want to share their one thing? You don't have to.
Those are mine.
Yeah. All right. So nobody else want to share before I move on? We're good? All right, cool. All right, y'all. So, we just talked about that. So you want to be thinking about what's your next one step. So those are kind of big, right? Like learning how to invest is a huge goal. So what's the one thing that you need to do? I want you to think about that. You may not have the answer for that right now. But you want to be thinking, what could that one thing be? Because that's the one step that you're going to want to need to take. And we all know it's one step after the other, after the other, after the other. So anyway, without further, did somebody write something in the chat here that I missed a while ago? Oh, okay. Nice. Okay. All right. She had to go. Tilly had to go. All right, cool. So yeah, but y'all, that is my presentation. So I want to open up, I'm going to go ahead and stop the screen share here, but I want to open up the floor for any questions or comments or initial thoughts that folks may have. And I hope that added some value and that you learned something new. So thank you. Any questions about anything?
Look at my notes. I had a question, I forgot what it was.
Yeah, it's all right. It's all right. No?
I like how you like opened up our eyes to see that money does come into wellness, because it's so easy to say like, no, it doesn't, I don't want to think of it that way. I think
Yeah.
it's like spiritual, emotional, physical,
Yeah.
but like, no, it does matter, unfortunately, in this day
Yeah.
and age. So I really appreciate that.
Yeah, thank you. I think it's really important because the thing about money, the thing about money, right, is that we need it as a tool to get the things that we need to meet our basic needs. And then to meet other needs that we may have in addition to that, right? And so if we don't have it and you lose your basic needs, then it's very hard to function in a way that feels good. It's hard to move through life in a way that feels good. And I'm saying this as somebody who's been homeless and as somebody who's been like rock bottom and even more bottom than bottom, like whatever that means, right? I'm saying this from my own personal experience. When you have nothing, it's very difficult to navigate in a way where, like, for me to show up, for instance, in the way that I can show up today, I can say that's because I feel secure, and feeling secure, part of that in any Western civilization has to do with making sure that you're financially secure. So if you're not financially secure, it's going to be hard for you to be healthy in other wellness areas because you're stressed out and like there's repercussions for that, right? It would be great if we didn't have to live within that kind of a society where you needed this, this thing to transact in that way, but we do. And because we do, we have to think about it, include it in, our whole wellness framework. All right. All right, y'all. Well, thank you so much. If there's no other questions or comments or anything like that, thank you. Like I said, I hope that y'all got some value from this. Thank you for coming. And I'm gonna hop off of this and we'll go ahead and we'll end this meeting. But thank you all for sharing with me.
Are these sessions gonna be like Cuba?